And I'll try to keep this short. But our aim is to see how language affects people's thinkings and behavior, how the words we use can influence people's perception or their following steps. So for the past few months, news has been circling about the injustice that has been going around the world. The privileged are treated better while the underprivileged are not treated the same. Real life situations like the COVID-19, where the rich are tested even without showing any symptoms, yet the rest have to wait for days to even be allowed on healthcare facility ground. The Black Lives Matter movement on how the pigment of their melanin can determine their lives. Yemen, with its biggest humanitarian crisis, where 24 million people are suffering, and I'm sure we have all heard about the explosion in Beirut. People can raise millions in days for inanimate objects, like when an iconic building got burned down, but the same couldn't be said for Yemen and Beirut. My friends and I conducted and chose this topic today because we believe that language and communication can affect people's behavior and thinking. Freedom of speech is great, but it can easily turn into something negative. Freedom of speech here means that the power or right to express one's opinion without censorship, restraints, or legal penalty. So, you might wonder, why these four panelists? Well, we chose our panelists for unique reasons. Dr. Zoe's PhD research is on international students' engagements. Students' identity, including their behaviors, way of thinking, can be contributed by their personalities and how their teachers speak to them. Tone and choice of words used can impact how student replies, how validated they feel in the classroom. Also, it doesn't hurt that Dr. Zoe teaches us social linguistics. Next, we have Dr. Chew Shin Yi. She conducted so many research, and one of them is learning styles on academic performance of Orang Asli students, multi-ethnic communities awareness, and she also presented discourse and participation of second language learners in face-to-face and online discussion. Furthermore, without a doubt, we have Ms. Kartini and also Mr. Hadwan, and they are both tremendous and credible students from Faculty of Languages and Linguistics. As students, we wanted their opinion as representative to the student body. They are both active in classes and curriculum, which makes them perfect to be the speaker for today's forum. Whew, I hope you guys are still here because things are about to get more interesting. I'm sure all of us are excited to hear our panelists' point of view. So let's get started. So panelists, Dr. Zoe, Dr. Chew, Ms. Kartini, and Mr. Hadwan. In your opinion, how important is freedom of speech or just speech in general? We will start with Dr. Chew.
Hi all, a very good afternoon. All right, well, I think it's undeniable that speech is really important. And that's one of the reasons why your forum today is carried out using speech, isn't it?
Yes.
Furthermore, we human beings are social beings, right? And we need to talk with language. Okay, so based on Vygotsky, language is a tool. Okay, it's actually a very important tool that helps us to express our ideas, our thoughts, our feelings. So when our forum is carried out with speech, you know, through this Zoom platform, okay, it can actually promote higher thoughts. So perhaps through this discussion, we could inspire each other, okay, and trigger us to do something better for the world using language. Yeah, and personally, I'm actually living with a small child about 1 year old who hasn't mastered speech. When you look at the baby or the toddler, you feel it's really cute. But when you are taking care of them, when they don't know the speech, it can make you really annoyed and frustrated. So speech is really important. Language is the tool, yeah, that can help us to express what we want, what we need. Yes. All right. That's my opinion about speech. Certainly very important.
Thank you, Dr. Chu. And a 1-year-old, how adorable. I love them at that stage. Thank you so
They
much
look
for sharing.
adorable, but try taking care of them, Alpha.
I love kids. I love kids.
To
And
strengthen them and say, hey, can you tell me what you want?
it'll be better, isn't it? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Chu. And what about you, Miss Kartini?
Thank you to our moderator, Alpha, for the question. Thank you, Dr. Chew, for your output. It was very interesting output, you know, with the examples and all. Okay, so to give out a brief definition, speech is the act of giving out one's opinion or expression. For example, when you converse with a friend, you can be talking about a movie or you know, music, things like that. So, well, based on my opinion, freedom of speech itself is very valuable. So the whole concept of speech itself is really important. This is because through the act of speech, when you listen to someone express their ideas, whatever they are actually articulating, whatever they're actually speaking is actually a glimpse of what goes on in their mind. So indirectly, when we hear this person talking, we're actually hearing this other person's point of view in their deepest depths of their minds. So, and the human mind, no one has the same brain. So whatever goes inside of our brains, it's going to be different. It's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for me. So each and every one of us will have, through speech, will be able to spread new ideas, venture into new theories, and understand a subject. And like, it can be like a simple subject. Maybe you're talking about an apple, and then but we are all having different types of thinking, so we can see the apple in many different perspectives. However, I admit the act of having freedom of speech can be really dangerous, because whatever you say, once it's said, you can't take it back. It's not like texting where you can delete it, backspace and delete it. Once you say things, it's out there forever. So to avoid these type of scenarios, we should think critically before saying something, and we should think whatever we are saying, will it hurt another party, will it hurt another human being? So yeah, we need to think before we talk. So that's my opinion for freedom of speech. I'll hand it over to Alpha.
Thank you. I really like your input actually, because I believe that we have so many things in our mind. So language is used as a way to actually present what is going on in our head. So thank you, Ms. Kartini. And Dr. Zoe, what do you think?
All right, thanks, Alpha. Hi, Shin Yi, how are you?
Hi.
Okay, so to actually respond to the question, what is speech? You know, how important is freedom of speech? I think I agree with both of the panels and also you, Alpha, that they are important. You know, we can't communicate within a community without language, without a speech. And I think in that sense, coming to what Ms. Kartini said earlier, you know, we have a lot of things to say, but whether we say it or not, is another matter. And I think in this sense, context is very important, because depending on what context we are in, then we say what we have to say. And again, you know, with the freedom of speech, many people may misunderstand, you know, that, you know, they can say anything, anywhere, to anyone, in whatever manner, anytime they want, you know. But I think we can't manipulate, we can't use freedom of speech like that. I think we still have to think, like Ms. Kartini said, about, you know, what's the consequence of this speech that we want to say to other people, you know, whether it's hurtful, whether it's gonna make people happy. So depending on that, and I think the context that we are in the education, in the higher education especially, you know, we want to give the voice to the students, but are the students ready to be given the voice? You know, so are they ready to be able to use this freedom of speech that we are talking about in the right way, for the right purpose, in the right manner? So the question, I think, is, it would be interesting, I think, later as we go along the forum today, that we can discuss this further on how students can actually use their voice for a better purpose, you know, for good. Yeah. So I think, yeah. Thank you, Alpha.
Thank you, Dr. Zoe. And Mr. Hadwan, what do you feel about this?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Alpha for giving us the question. So, how important is freedom of speech, or just speech in general? So, first we have to understand first what is language. So, according to the Oxford Dictionary, language is defined as a method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting the use of words in structured or conventional ways, and it's a non-verbal method of expression and communication. So within this context, we can see how thinking and behavior tolerate with our way of language, way of our speech. So to me, freedom of speech is truly important. However, when we want to say things, when we want to give our opinions, there are a few crucial matters that needs to be in check first before we give out that opinion. So, however, without proper knowledge or without proper news of information, freedom of speech can be manipulated into hate speech, and this can be this is something that we need to avoid actually. So, I mentioned that about the crucial matters. So, I've agreed with the three other panelists, and yes, it's true that before we need to say anything, we actually have to understand on what is being said by the other person. So listening is actually a very crucial part also in speech, where we cannot just say it, but we also have to listen towards the towards the opposite side. So then we also have to consider the tone and make use of word choices so that that misunderstanding can be avoided in our way of speech. But we cannot hope for only sunshines, as there will be misunderstanding also that will be occurring. So when misunderstandings happen, we can use facts and data to support our points or to support our stand. But if things get out of hand, we can actually walk away, and that is the proper way of giving out an opinion or discussion or in speech in general. Pass back to you, Alpha.
Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. I think all of you said something common yet different at the same time. I like how, Mr. Hadwan, you pointed out how freedom of speech can easily turn into a hate speech. And Dr. Zoe, you mentioned how are students ready to be given the platform where they can use their voice, whether it can be for good or for bad. So this actually brings me to the next question. When someone is actually encouraging hate, how do you think people should react to that?
Should I go first?
Sure, Ms. Zoe, take it away.
I think that's another interesting question, Alpha. Thank you. In my opinion, it depends on the perspective that this person is talking about. If you're talking about influencing, you're talking about influences, but who are they? You have to think about the credibility that they have, whether you can listen, you can watch, you can follow them as much as you want, but it's our attentive, it's our decision, it's our thinking that brings our maturity that should allow us to decide whether we want to follow, we want to adopt this perspective, we want to adopt this view, or we want to just listen, okay, take it, all right, that's your opinion, but I have a different opinion. I don't obviously different people have different perspectives on what hate is, on what hate speech is. And I think in that sense, we have to be matured enough to understand what is good and what is bad, right? We don't want people to condone hate speech. We don't want that. So we have to think from our perspective and from the speaker's perspectives, where they are coming from. Why are they giving this kind of speech? What's their background? And we can understand them. From this understanding, I think we can build a better community for the rest of us, and at the end of the day, we decide what we want to experience, whether we want to experience hate or whether we want to experience something that is happy or that is okay for everyone, for the whole community. I think our maturity, the students' maturity, I mean, even in fact, the lecturers' maturity, we have to decide whether we want to proceed or we want to, just, okay, that's it. This is my decision. This is my take on it. I don't agree with you, but that's okay. And it's okay to disagree, it's okay to agree to disagree. Yeah.
Well said, Zul.
And Dr. Zoe, if I may interject, just now you mentioned how different people have different opinions on hate and etc. So is it almost the same thing as someone trying to be more politically correct in a situation? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, what do you understand by the term politically correct, right? So I think we have to first understand that term for us to actually proceed with the discussion. I think it's okay to be politically correct, So if you were to ask the question, what is a politically correct? Some people may say, okay, I can say what I want to say to satisfy this person, and others will say, I don't want to say this so that, I want to be polite. I want to be seen polite. So again, it's our maturity as speakers, as a human being, to decide, whether we want to, is it okay in the context that we are in to be politically correct, or, we want to be like, okay, in this context, I have to say what I have to say, despite our political differences or, similarities. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. That's a very interesting point of view. And what about you, Mr. Hadwan? What do you think when someone is encouraging hate? Like, how do you think people should behave towards that?
So when we hear about hate, so hate is actually something that's been in our daily lives since a long time ago, from this feeling of envy with other people, and it actually is a self-reflection of that person also on how he or she wants to believe in their point of view as something that is like as what Alpha mentioned, politically correct. So but with hate, there'll be only one kind of reaction, that is people will react badly towards it, and there would be two outcomes, where first, it may be that person wouldn't react towards it as physically, but it will react to it mentally, and it can consume and overthink, and this can affect one's mental health or mental state. And this is something that's really been talked on by youth and by people of any of age background, and also in the social media community and so on. And then there'll be people who will be going through this hate by using physical methods, where when oil meets fire, it'll only enrich more fire, and that is something that we need to actually avoid, as the only way to avoid hate is going away from it. That's the only way to do it. If you see, for example, let me take you for example. Yesterday, a tweet from a person saying that Tesla is an easy course, and anyone can get a 4.0 pointer, Dean's List, and so on. And that is something that if we consume too much hate towards it, it'll only get bigger. And when, for example, when you retweet that tweet, you will only share the hate with the people around you also, and that is something that we need to avoid. So maybe just swiping down and do not react to it, the person wouldn't get that kind of attention. And talking about influence, as people with big influence and so on, that can actually affect, that can actually build, that can actually like encourage other people to follow their point of view or to follow the things that they want to say. But somehow we can actually, like Dr. Zoe said, we can actually agree to disagree towards their own opinion, because people are entitled to their own opinion. But however, we need to understand and have a clear understanding that we need to be neutral as much as possible, where we cannot be too hold on to one position, and we need to be more open-minded and more agreeable to other kinds of outcomes in a certain discussion. Okay.
Sorry, may I add to what Hadwan said? That's very interesting, because I didn't know about this TESOL thingy on Twitter. But I think I agree with what you're saying. You know, when people start tweeting this kind of thing, or something that we don't like, or something that we disagree with, you know, it's always better to step away, you know, ignore. However, I think it's also important to educate. You know, with this kind of things, people don't know. That's why they are saying what they are saying about TESOL programs and everything, because they don't understand. They don't understand. They don't go through what those who have been through it. So that's why they don't. So it's important to educate. It's important to explain, and obviously in an academic manner, in a proper manner. You know, we don't want to go to their level. I'm not saying their level is low, but what I'm saying is we don't want to condemn them. We don't want to be seen. I mean, we can condemn them, you know, with our friends and everything outside of social media. But I think it's important to educate, because when you can retweet with comment, obviously, and explain, okay, you know, this is what TESOL is about. This is what you're learning. This is what people, who, you know, the teachers have been learning all this while, and it's not as easy as it seemed, you know. So yeah, I think I agree with you. However, I think that there needs to be another level to that, where you can explain. It's okay to explain. It's okay to have your voice. And it doesn't mean that you inciting the hate. It doesn't mean that you encourage the hate more. No, it's just, you are just explaining, like I said, in a good manner. Yeah.
Can I add more on towards Dr. Zoe's statement? So actually, yes, when we want to comment on, or we want to retweet and comment with educating, there are a few ways that we use educating. There are some that educate with much more power, and the use of words are not think through, and some educate with trying to make that other person understand. So these things have to be, but more commonly that I see in Twitter are towards those kinds of those who want to get the points across and wants that other person to really understand what's happening. So okay, I guess that's all from me. I'll pass back.
Be the change, Hadwan. Be the change.
Yes, true.
I totally agree with you, Dr. Zoe and Mr. Hadwan. Thank you for bringing that to the attention, because it was trending within the top 5, I believe, in Malaysia for Twitter. So yeah, thank you. Ms. Kartini, as a student, as an English student as well, what do you think? I mean, I know you're not in TESOL, but you know, we are still learning somewhat, almost the same as TESOL, because we're learning English. Yeah, so what do you think?
What do I think about the encouraging hate, right? Okay, so in terms of encouraging hate, when someone ordinary, someone you know in your daily life, comments maybe something negative about your appearance, maybe about your weight or how you look, it hurts, right? Like even someone you know, when they do that, it hurts really bad. So it's going to be the same when it comes to, it's going to be the same how us, the public, feel when influential people with power encourage hate in their speech. The reaction is going to be the same. Naturally, people will get upset, people will get defensive, and of course, people will get angry. But that's normal, because the very essence of being human itself is to feel emotions, and being upset, being angry is a part of that. So, you know, with the social media, internet, and technology all combined, the news is basically just a finger's click away from us. So as netizens, we have been watching, we have been analyzing, and we have been witnessing what these influential people has been up to. You know, because with social media, it's so easy. The video can just become viral, the tweet can become viral. So it is especially very upsetting when you see leaders that's supposed to lead these communities, or people in power encouraging hate through their speech, because these are the exact same people who should be showcasing good etiquettes, and spreading hate is not one of it. Like, they have the power to make a change in the world, but they're not using their power towards that. Instead they're encouraging hate. So of course we'll get angry. And the worst part is some of these powerful figures, they are actually elected by us, the public. We are the one who gave them the power to become powerful. So imagine the betrayal the public feels when, for example, we see a social media influencer encouraging hate speech, when in fact we are the very people who make them famous. We are the one who follow them, who support them, and then they do things like that. So of course we'll get upset. When we see people in power using the power in the wrong way, that is in this scenario, which is by encouraging hate, the public will feel betrayed. And actually, like, well, I myself, like, when I see something so hateful on the internet, I get so angry to the point I cry. I cry because there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not a person with power. I'm just a student. What can I do? I don't have the power to change more powerful people. So through advocating, yes, I can. Advocating through my circles, at Twitter or something. But the change, the impact will take into effect after a long time, because I'm not up there. I'm just down here, you know, in the hierarchy. So we know that every influential figure, they have their own number of followers. And these followers, some of them are so loyal, they just listen to whatever this figure says. And even though sometimes their speech are negative and wrong, these followers would just listen like that. So this is super harmful and dangerous when it comes to hate speech, because the followers would accept the idea of what this influential figure is saying, and think whatever this influential figure is saying is right. And then these followers would then proceed to spread this ideology to their circle, and even some cases their children. So imagine if this influential figure, he said something racist in the speech, and this follower just take it and they spread it to children. This would produce generations of racist people, and we see this some sort of a domino effect, and the hate just goes on and on and on. So yeah, that's all from me. I will hand it back to our cute moderator, Ms. Alpha.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Kartini. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned the domino effect, because literally, I think our whole life is a domino effect. And Dr. Chew, I'm sure you have a very few interesting thoughts on this. So what do you think?
Okay, I'd just like to respond to Ms. Kartini. So you mentioned that you're a student, you feel that you are not up there one day. It's just a matter of time, Kartini. Yes. All right. It's very important that we are here, you know, to talk about this issue. We are aware of this issue, and we want to change. We don't want the world, Malaysia and also the world, to continue having more hate speech that's accelerated by technology, by social media. It's really sad. And we are afraid that the next generation will also carry this perception, right? So first, I think we have done a good start. We are now aware, okay? And the next step perhaps is using language and using the right medium to convey and educate, yeah, like Ms. Zoe said, to educate other people, okay, that the world needs to be more balanced. You know, actually United Nations, they have 17 goals that we need to achieve, and one of them is reduced inequality. Okay, however, with this hate speech, okay, they are actually trying to portray that one group is better than the other. Okay, there's actually not enough understanding. To me, I feel there's not enough understanding towards the minorities, especially. Okay, so perhaps, okay, when we understand a particular group better, you know, our feelings and perceptions would change as well. You know, like the Malay saying, tak kenal maka tak cinta, kan? Right? And also we have to be aware of our own stereotypes as well. Yeah. You know, when we see, you know, perhaps a black guy suddenly coming, you feel scared, like, okay, I'll safeguard my purse and bags and all, right? You have to be aware of our own perceptions, of our own stereotypes that we have to a certain group as well. Yeah. What else do I want to say? Oh, yeah. Okay, talking about hate speech, all right? So, you know, we might be victims as well, and we also need to, you know, be careful of our rights. Okay, so although Article 10 of the Constitution of Malaysia, okay, states that we all have the right to the freedom of speech. Okay, but however, there is a limit. Okay, the speech shouldn't harm others. Okay, whether it's in the form of force or fraud. Okay, if you feel that you are cheated, or somebody talks something obscene to you, or somebody is threatening you, okay, if it's a true threat, okay, or it's something like incitement causing you to do something wrong, okay, or defamation, yeah, okay, we have to be clear that if this occur, then we have the right to actually protect ourselves. We shouldn't be treated that way. Yeah, we shouldn't go through defamation. We shouldn't be cheated. We shouldn't be persuaded to do something wrong. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Thank you, Dr. Chew. I like the fact that you mentioned the SDG, the Sustainable Development Growth, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because, you know, we are all trying to become a better place for the world. So I think that's very interesting that you actually put it out there.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So, you know, I think this brings me to my next question. You know, you mentioned something about our own perception and our own, maybe our own racist thought, if I can say so myself. So, when someone speaks with accent, you know, why do certain people view them differently? I mean, do their style change your view on the content of their speech? Like, do the way they talk change what they are trying to bring to the table?
Oh, I like this question a lot. I actually read a study. Okay, so it's a study done in German. Okay, the topic is like linguistic differences. Differences in accent cause differences in your paycheck. So if you speak differently, if your accent is different, okay, the money that you earn every month could be different. Okay, so this group of researchers from German, they did a study. So if you do not speak the standard accent, okay, if you do not speak the standard accent in that community, you actually earn 20% lesser than the others. Yeah. Okay, so this is in German. There's also another one in America. Okay, so they looked at the African Americans. Yeah, they are always like kind of marginalized, right? And they found that if African Americans could adopt the more standard speech, okay, the more standard American speech, they would earn 12% more, okay, than the African Americans who still have their own variety or their own accent. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. This is happening. And this is because accent is actually linked to one's background. Okay, so if I'm speaking with a Malaysian accent now, I'm actually showing that, oh, I'm from Malaysia. you know, I adopt Malaysian values. Adopt Malaysian values. So people have stereotypes towards a person based on the accent. And also it's very interesting that, okay, we can know somebody's accent in just 30 milliseconds. When we just say hello, okay, let's say hello is said in 30 milliseconds. When we say hello, we could actually know where this person is from. Yeah, that's why sometimes when we call a person, hello, and then you get hung up, then you hang up people, right? Yeah, because you might know, hey, this is not someone I know, this sounds foreign. Straight away, after you're listening to hello, you could know the accent, who this person is. You will make a lot of judgments about it. You will then think about whether you want to continue the conversation or hang up and say bye, right? Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Chew. I think that's a very eye-opening. We study about the African American Vernacular English, or AAVE, and it's funny because we often think that AAVE, when we speak in AAVE, we sound cooler, and yet, as you mentioned, if you don't speak the standard English that the community is speaking, it can be considered, you're not as smart. Well, I believe that, when you speak in an accent, you are bringing your own identity to it. So, Mr. Hadwan, what do you think about this, about when someone speaks with an accent?
So to get, to let everyone know, I'm actually taking English for Intercultural Communication in UiTM. It's actually a new course, and I'm actually the first batch for it. And we actually learn regarding accents and dialects of different English users using the Kachru's tree circle, as everyone, I hope everyone is aware of it. The inner circle, the outer circle, and also the expanding circle, and so on. So there are a lot of kinds of Englishes around the world actually. And as in Malaysia, we use Malaysian English, or known as Rojak here in Malaysia. Okay, so to me, accents are just a different way of pronouncing a word, or pronouncing a sentence, or of us pronouncing something. So, however, if a person uses accents that is not natural, or something that he or she wants to use it, he or she wants to follow. For example, this person is from Malaysia, and he or she keeps on listening in British or British shows and British podcasts and so on, and he or she wants to adapt with that accent. But if the accent is forced, it can actually result in unnatural speech patterns, and this can cause misunderstanding, miscommunication, misinterpretation, where the message that we want to get it across didn't reach to the speaker, reach to the listener. And however, I would like to stress this out, that if when we want to speak, I would like to stress it out that we need to hear the points of that person and not the accent. So the points of that person is actually more important rather than the sound that that person produces. And we don't need to be afraid of using Malaysian English, for example, where it is something that's really near to our hearts. And when we say it, when we talk with our other Malaysians, it is actually more understandable, and that would be more better in ensuring that our points get across to the other person. So that is my point of view regarding accents. As to summarize, if it's forced, then it would come out not natural, and it can cause misunderstanding, miscommunication, misinterpretation. But if it is natural, maybe it's more prominent that the ideas that can be given across.
Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. I think what you're learning, English in intercultural communities, am I right, is actually quite... Communication, sorry, yeah. It's actually quite different. I really like that, and I wish you success. So, Dr. Zoe, I know you studied in New Zealand and also in the UK, so you're very familiar with accents and everything. So in your opinion, what is your input when someone speaks with an accent to someone that does not?
Thank you, Alpha. I mean, I think all of us have been exposed to different accents, right? I mean, some of us watch Korean dramas, you know, some of us watch English movies, some of us watch English movies from the US. So we can learn from this. How can we learn? I think we can learn by being able to adapt to the different situations, to the different people that we are talking to. I think Malaysians are great at adapting. I think we adapt really well and we adapt very fast, especially, you know, and I can see that different people speaking to different groups, you know, they adapt the way they speak. Like, you know, for example, when we go to Mama, you know, we don't say, Pakcik, saya nak air teh. You know, we say, Ane, teh tarik satu. Right? The way we say it, we want to be able to relate to the person, and that is what we call, you know, we can say that these accents, these different varieties of English, or for varieties of any other languages for that matter, it brings solidarity. You know, I like what Hadwan said earlier about using Malaysian English. You're from Malaysia, yeah, I'm from Malaysia too. Oh, you can speak Malaysian. Oh, you can speak Malay. You can speak this language. You know. Oh, I can do that too. You know. So that solidarity, and that is especially the feeling is especially great when we are overseas, obviously. But it should be the same here. You know, I think that depending on the context that we are in, we have to be able to adapt. You know, okay, in an academic setting, are we allowed, or is it appropriate for us to use the different varieties? Is it appropriate if we were to use the Malaysian English too much in classes when we discuss academically with our friends, with our lecturers? You know, that's the question here. But then is it appropriate if we were to use the standard English with a British accent when we go and order at McD here in KT? Is it appropriate? No, it's not, isn't it? So I think depending, and again, I think everybody, we need to be educated. We need to be educated enough to actually decide, okay, this is appropriate, this is not appropriate, depending on the context that we are in. And, you know, some people say, you know, if you use Malaysian English, if you use the lah, the ma, you know, you don't sound educated. Don't use that lah. You know, it sounds so weird. It doesn't show that you're from an elite group. But the question is it necessary for you to show that you come from an elite group? You know, it's okay if you come from what, Kampong Gombada here, you know, if you come from KT, it's okay. But again, depending on where you are, you know, even if you are from Gombada, sometimes people from Gombada can adapt better in the different contexts compared to people who are, I mean, sorry, I'm not saying that, you know, people from KL are like that, but I'm giving examples here, okay? But, you know, sometimes people from KL, they come here and expect people to understand their accent when they don't try to understand our accent, you know, our dialect. So I think that's the difference there. And I think that's why it's very important to be educated. Again, you know, I think I can't stress this enough, that being educated helps you to be better. And I like the points that both of you, I mean, all of us are talking here, like Dr. Chew said earlier, the first step is to be aware. You know, the next step, you know, is to be educated ourselves, you know, and then the next step is, you know, like Kartini said again, to share with those who are close to us, our circles, you know, because we can't be changing the whole world, you know, in one day, right? Yeah. So I think again, you know, the context that you are in, depending on you, it doesn't matter what other people are using, you know, it's you, and then we don't judge people based on their accent. That's my take on it. Yeah.
Sorry, could I add something to what Dr. Zoe had said?
Yes,
All
please,
right.
Dr. Chew.
Yes, yes. So I feel authenticity, as mentioned by Hadwan, is important as well. Yeah, we do not need to feel shy about our own accent and try to change completely. Yeah, that's not practical. It's not like changing a shirt. Okay, we have to be proud of ourselves and yet try to be intelligible. We want people to understand us. Okay, that means we need to be authentic, be ourselves, and try to be intelligible by adapting. Sometimes when we go somewhere else, if they use, like in New Zealand, if they use A at the end, how do you do A? This is cool, A. So you might follow to feel that, hey, I know about your culture. I can be with, I can mingle with you. You know, try to blend in or adapt to the new environment. And it's also important when you go to a new place or meeting a new people, get to know the background of that place, what's their culture. Yeah, that will help us in communication and to reduce bad feelings towards each other, yeah, or misunderstanding that might occur.
Thank you, Dr. Chu. I think solidarity is a very powerful thing, you know, as Dr. Zoe mentioned, especially when you're outside of the country. And Ms. Kartini, what do you feel when someone speaks with an accent?
Okay, thank you, Alpha. Thank you, Dr. Chu. Thank you, Dr. Zoe. Thank you, Hadwan, for your output. Okay, accent. Okay, we all know that the world is filled with people of various different types of culture, right? And each culture have their own distinctive accents when they speak a language. Take the language English, for example. Okay, English may have a standard language with its own specific rules and regulations, but it's spoken differently in a lot of countries due to the many cultures in the world. Take Malaysians, for example, when we speak English with our Malaysian accent, it's actually really beautiful because like what Hadwan said, through these accents we can differentiate like which part of the world we come from, because you know, although Malaysian English accent and Singaporean English accent are similar, but there is a difference. There is a certain difference where you can distinct them. Oh, you're Malaysian, you're Singaporean. So however, I would say that some Malaysians, not all, we have these stereotypes where actually I went through this when I was younger. When I hear people speaking American accent or British accent, I would feel like, wow, impressed. You know, it's like that kind of stereotype which was already engraved inside ourselves, like, oh, we feel people who have American and British accent to be more superior because that they are of the native of that language. So we feel like, oh, we should look up to them. I don't know where we get this stereotype, but it happens, you know, because you see all these Bangladeshi workers, Myanmar workers, they adapt to our language so easily, but you don't see people going, wow, this Bangladeshi can speak English so well. You don't see that kind of thing happen. Like, why, you know? But that is something, that's our mindset. We have to change it, you know. We can't just keep on thinking there's a superior kind of race in this world. Like, and the most important part, like what Hadwan touched on, is the context of the speech itself. The accent doesn't matter. The accent just serves as a accessory. You know, it serves as a middleman between the speech and the content of the speech itself. So what we should focus on instead of the accent is what the people are trying to say when they are speaking, you know. And there was one day when I went to Penang, and this American girl, she was from, I think, Arizona, she approached me. She was like, hey, you're quickly that, and then just their words are like connected that you can't catch them. So I'll be like, like that. I have to think twice before I reply back. So but that doesn't mean that I see them differently. I respect still whatever message they're trying to convey to me, and regardless of what their accents are, because like I said, accents are just an accessory to the language. What's important is the content itself. Like we cannot because we feel like, oh, this guy's African and he speak African English, like we shouldn't whatever he's saying doesn't matter compared to people who speak American or British accent. We can't have that type of mindset, because what if that person is actually giving a really important message in their speech, and we are missing it out. We are missing a lot of things out. So if you have a particular accent, that doesn't automatically makes your speech more validated compared to others. So once again, we should focus on the content of the speech itself compared to the accent. And I totally agree with Dr. Zoe when it comes to the context, you know, like you can't just go to the mama and pull out your British accent there, you know, like the mama will be looking at you like that, like and because I was in school, I had a lot of Chinese friends. I can't be pulling out my British accent there. I'll be like, hey, what you eat for lunch? Like, you have to try to assimilate to them, because not everyone understands the accent, you know. So yeah, what should context is important as well. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Kartini. I think it's quite delightful, because I think we can see double standards when it comes to people, and I think it's really interesting. Thank you so very much. How about we take a quick 1 minute break? Is that okay for everyone? A quick 1 minute break. All right, I'll see you back in 1 minute. Thank you, everyone. All right, and our 1 minute is up. So, okay, we'll wait for the rest of the panelists to come back. No worries. Oh, yes, we're all here. Great. So let's move on to the round 2. Okay. So Dr. Dr. Zoe, and Dr. Chew, you've been a lecturer for a few years, and before that, I'm sure you completed years of learning in educational institutions. What are some of the moments that you went through that really struck you on how powerful this course could be? Let's start with Dr. Zoe.
Why not Dr. Shin Yi? Okay, thank you. I think if I were to reflect, right, I mean, to answer the question, when I was a student, I think one of the things that I find triggered me a lot as both a lecturer and also a student, as an adult student later, is that I don't think we are giving enough opportunities for students to have their voice in the classroom. I think because as a student, I was such a shy student, wasn't I, Shin Yi? I didn't speak too much in the class. You know, I'm always I know I'm a backseater. I always sit at the back of any halls or classrooms. So I didn't really share my opinions. I didn't ask questions. You know, it is safe to say that I'm the typical Malaysian student. and no matter where I go, that's how I behaved, And in fact, when I furthered my PhD, when I went to workshops, when I went to seminars, I couldn't bring myself to say anything again, because I think that's just, I think I was trained, it was the system that is here ingrained. But that's why I want to change, because I think students' voice are very important. I think it's important to always discuss with the students, allowing students to have their say, to listen to them, and without being judged, without being judged by the lecturer or the students, other students. I think a classroom needs to be a safe space. It's important for the students to feel, okay, I can say anything that I want to say in this class. I can share my opinions. I can ask questions. I can be who I am. Even if I don't want to say anything, it's fine. It's fine not saying anything. I think if the students are not being given this opportunity, then we don't allow students to be their maximum potential. We don't allow students to develop their potential. I think students should be allowed again, and it's important to also understand, not just the lecturers, not just the students themselves, but others in the community, others in the classroom community, being able to understand, okay, you have the right to say what you want. However, there's always a limit. We talked about freedom of speech earlier, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean that you can have your freedom of speech, saying anything you want, in any manner that you want, anytime that you want, anywhere that you want. Again, you have to understand, we have to understand, there's always different perspectives, there's always different contexts that you are in, and depending on this context, then you can have your say, and in my opinion, whatever you say, whatever questions that you have, be justified, be educated, justify why do you say what you say. You don't just say, okay, I agree with you, and then that's it. But why? Explain why. This will develop your thinking. This will definitely develop your critical thinking. It will help you to discuss. And the thing is, I have a lot to say. The thing is, within the classroom, there are many things. There are a lot of potentials to be developed. Yeah, I'm going to stop there. If not, I can't stop.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Chew. Go ahead.
Hi, Zu. Why not you continue?
No, I told you I'm a shy person.
Look at how your students react. Do you think Dr. Zuri is shy?
Yes, I'm a shy person.
I'll refrain from answering that question, or I'll get in trouble. She's still my lecturer.
All right.
Just joking. But yeah, thank you, Dr. Zoe, for that info. I think it's very delightful to hear that you really value our opinions. And I mean, we have a few of your students right here, and I think they could say the same thing. So, Dr. Chew, as an educator and as a student, what do you think about this?
So, yes, that's actually a pertinent point raised by Dr. Zhu. Okay, Zhu or Zoe. All right, I think it's my choice, right? I called her Zhu, all right, when we were classmates. So personality is actually an important factor. That's also a question that has guided me to go through my PhD. So during my PhD, I also looked at the relevance of personality and the relevance of personality in communication. Why do some students talk more while some of them, like me and Zhu, will sit at the back and watch? We tend to take a back seat, but we also wonder, especially when we become teachers and lecturers, we actually hope that students would be braver, okay, to speak up. It's not that someone is brave or not brave, but sometimes it's the influence of personality, language proficiency, and the environment. Perhaps the classroom environment, in face-to-face context, when you have naughty friends there, it's threatening. Sometimes if you felt it's not safe, you felt threatened, you better keep quiet. I think you better keep quiet, But if it's in a different platform or a different medium, would things change? If I couldn't see your face, would I be, would somebody be more willing to say what they want to say, be more willing to express? So if you look at the ecological model of the communication, so people who are communicating matters, okay? So we need to know the background, the interpretation, how would they interpret a message, and what's their intention, okay? And then how do we use language? What kind of language do we use? In what kind of environment? All these actually play a role in communication. And relating to our, our youthful time when we were at universities, okay, it was a pleasant moment, okay, especially when you are complimented, so the discourse here play a role. If you are complimented, you will feel motivated and confident to say what you want to say, right? Imagine if you go through a class where the lecturer has never praised you but only criticized you. You'll feel bad and don't really want to say or do anything, right? Okay, so I think compliments is actually very powerful. And I also like the way English ask for things, like, could you please help me? Some of the polite forms, these polite forms are actually very important to get our point. To get people to willingly do things for you. Some words like that. And even the use of personal pronouns actually play a role. Okay, if you look at how Donald Trump speaks, he will use a lot of I did this, I did that. But if you look at our own DG of health, Datuk Noh Hisham, he actually used a lot of we, we should, we have to practice this. So I feel, when we're using language, we need to take note, okay, of some of the polite forms that will make people happier to work with you, to do things for you. And the use of pronouns that will include the person, instead of saying I did this, but how about using we? Hey, let's do this. Why not we do that? We should, So perhaps as English students or as English students and people who will be working with English language a lot, or other languages as well, instead of personal pronoun like I, but instead include something more inclusive, we, us. That's what I feel about it.
Thank you, Dr. Chew. If I might, right, and how, sometimes students feel like they better keep quiet, and they are more of a naughty, loud students like myself, so
way.
loud. I know I am. But I was just wondering, in your opinion, on how me as a loud student, my friends, we know that we're loud. How do you think we as a student and also you as a lecturer can create a safe environment and space for the quieter ones to speak up?
Perhaps one of the ways would be creating different roles. Like you would be great as a moderator here, all right? Or perhaps as a mentor to help your other friends. So sometimes we could also have smaller discussions, before we go to in a large group discussions where only few voices would be heard. And for you, you are actually a gem in the class. extroverts, they actually bring the class become livelier and more interesting. But I know then you will like you felt that you have taken the opportunities of your quieter friends, right? But that's just different learning styles. Some people need more time to think before they want to voice out. So that's fine. You can voice out first, then later on, if they feel safe enough, they would actually contribute as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chew. I think that's a very delightful way of putting things into the table. So, Ms. Kartini and Mr. Hadwan, you guys are students. So, as a student, how important was your voice in class or as a collective in a university? Did your lecturers yield the power of discourse back to you? And once you have speak out your mind, speak out your words, are there any actions from the other party?
So, should I start? Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, in my opinion, as students, the importance of how our voice is given is in our class. I cannot say it as stereotypically because we have different types of classrooms, if I'm not mistaken. As like in UiTM, we are normally in classrooms where we stick with the same people throughout the classes if every course. And if I'm not mistaken, in UNISA and also UKM, you have to pick your classes and it's not with the same people. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm mistaken, please correct me. So maybe by class engagement and also class chemistry, it would bring out the student's voice. And by per se, for example, the nearest example is in my class, as we know each other better as our semesters go up, and then class engagement becomes more lively and more and when lecturers ask the questions, there will be more frequent people that rather than the first semester where the normal loud people, the loud students will normally answer and so on. But as the semester goes on, when you get familiar and the class chemistry goes well, then our voices are actually being heard by the lecturers also. This so in my context, as I am the first batch of this news course, the head of programs actually asked the feedback from our input regarding our course outcomes and so on. And then lecturers really did take our input on what is being said and changed a few bits, twists and there with the next batch and so on. So our juniors actually got the more better version of the course rather than us. We got the demo version lah. And then that shows how our voice are actually important in changing something and so on. And as a student representative, I use everything in my power to get what the student needs towards the faculty. And all of those are being shown through my use of Google Forms and the news of my student body council, getting across to the students and so on. And all of that data is used with meetings with the dean and meetings with the management. And we hope for action to be done. And that is actually what needs to be really been held on as student representative, and also by the students to know your representatives, to know the people that can actually bring your voice towards the right channel of people. And for that, that's how important language and speech is in ensuring our voice is being heard.
Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. So it's nice that you mentioned you being a representative, because being as a representative, you often see scopes in different manners. So how do you talk to the higher ups when two parties are conflicting with each other?
So if like conflictions happen and so on, I would really be careful with my words, because I don't want to cause misunderstanding and so on. So I would just try to stand up on the point of the data that is being, like for example, the ODL, the online distant learning that we have been going throughout this semester, and how those with low news of internet outcomes and those with money problems, financial issues, those have mental illnesses, like they cannot sleep well or so on with the programs and so on. These data is actually brought forward, and then lecturers actually got the information, and then the learning style quite changes from the previous weeks, then changes into the next few weeks more, and then that's how we see that change and action is being done from the voices that is being said. So that's how, as a student representative, we should be able to be doing that.
I think that's awesome, because you are the whole student's body voice. I think that's very, very interesting. And congratulations. I feel like you've been a very good representative so far. So Ms. Kartini, what's your input on this?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alpha. All right. How important is our voice as students in class or collective in your university? Did your lecturers yield the power of discourse back to you? Okay, first let's talk about that. My lecturers in UTM, they have never said, no, stop, don't talk, things like that. They never say, no, why don't you sit down, things like that. Because I think even in school, language teachers, language lecturers, especially English language, they are one of the most coolest and chillest teachers you've ever met. Like, I love my high school English teacher. I loved her. She's one of the reasons why I love writing so much. So I think English language teachers are more open. They're more accepting towards students having things to say. But once again, we need to know our boundaries as we are students, and they are lecturers. We should respect them. So of course, it's important to have a voice in university. Let's take university for example first, because the university, we can see that in universities we have the student council board. We have even in dorms, in dormitory, they have their student body, like every single place they have their own club, for people, for some people to speak for the majority. So for my center as well, because my faculty is social sciences, and then below social sciences there's center of language. So in our center we have two courses, which is my courses, English language studies and linguistics. The linguistics students study linguistics in Bahasa, because that's UKM standard language, Bahasa Melayu. So the student club acts as a middleman between the students, the majority of the students, to the high ups, which are the faculty. Like if, for example, tiba-tiba ada hole in the roof, so we are the one who has to report to the faculty, because the faculty people are not going to be at our center 24/7 knowing what's going on there. So we have to either report to the center itself or report to the faculty. So if you want dana, if you want money for any upcoming programs, yeah, that's where we have to go to the faculty. You have to make a meeting and things like that. So it's important, and in classes as well, because in UKM we have normal lectures where it's filled with hundreds of students, as well as small tutorial classes. One tutorial classes, there's like 30 people. So usually I'm more vocal in the tutorial class, because in the lecture would just teach from the slides, and I feel like that's not a situation where I should budge in and say, what's this, I don't understand, things like that. Unless if the lecturer stops and asks any questions, anything you're not clear of, okay, if I'm really blur like that, I'll ask, okay, doctor, what is this about, like that. Other than that, the one where the lecturer and the students exchange thoughts and expression, it happens in the tutorial classes, where there's the 30 or 40 people in one class, because that's the function of tutorial classes. It's like extra tuition class, for the students, if you don't understand that week's lecture. So you know why is it so important for students to have their own voice in university? Because university serves as a platform between the studying world and the real world. Like if we don't start from university itself, how are we supposed to go out in the real world, in the real and working world, and just magically started like having confidence to talk, to voice out your opinions, you know? So everything starts from school, everything starts from university. Especially I feel that's the building point. The university serves as a platform to help you practice, to voice out your opinions as a student, and you can incorporate it later on when you're in the outside world. So yeah, university is the stepping stone. And if you have something to bring light to, you have to be vocal about it. So when students speak, of course, the university will listen to us speakers. So most of the times they will give feedback, but sometimes might be negative, sometimes must be positive, but it's okay as long as they give feedback. So that means that the university is actually listening to students. They actually acknowledge us. They know what's happening to us, and they know we exist. So I think it's really important for university students to have a voice in their own university, you know. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you, Alpha.
Thank you, Ms. Kartini. I really like your context, you know, when you said, you know, lectures are usually really big. So, you know, I like how you look at the context of it, you know, because you don't want to interrupt the whole class because you
Yes.
one person don't understand, right? So I really like that. Thank you so much for your output. So if all of you don't mind, we'll take another quick 1 minute break, water break. Yeah, and then we'll be back in 1 minute. I'll see you soon. Yay, we're back. 1 minute is up. Okay. I hope all of you had a sip of water because now we are continuing on with our last round, which is round 3. So, panelists, we can see that Malaysian youth are using their voice even more now when it comes to social issues like the environment, racial injustice, all the things that all of you have mentioned. So should all speeches be allowed when someone is trying to advocate their thoughts? Let's start with Mr. Hadwan.
Okay. So freedom of speech. Okay. So to let everyone know, freedom of speech is actually something that we need to be aware of. In Malaysia, we still have Article 10 in the Malaysian Constitution, where it's entitled freedom of speech, where this article specifies on each citizen has the right of their own freedom of speech and expression, and all citizens have the right to assemble peacefully and without arms, and all citizens have the right to form associations and so on. And to summarize this article, it most focuses on regarding political stability and racial harmony. So that is freedom of speech in general. So so in using freedom of speech as fully, where we want to talk or voice on our on social issues, environment, racial injustice, and so on, where speeches loud news and try to advocate our thoughts. Where yes, I think freedom of speech is something that we need to really be we need to be aware of on what is going to be said. Where we don't want to put too much weight on our words that can cause racial issues and so on. Where there are some matters that we can talk on does not fully cover on what is being said, and that can cause misunderstanding, that can cause miscommunication, misconfusion, and it can actually invoke more hatred rather than what is trying to be said. Like I said earlier in our first round, where actually freedom of speech can be manipulated into hate speech, like how influential people like leaders and so on can use their voice to voice out their own personal thoughts that does not bring any good towards the community or towards the people around them, around and the people that they are trying to lead. And this shows how freedom of speech really weighs on how we want to talk and how we put our thoughts out across in social medias, in like platforms like this forum, in various of places where we have to really be careful on what is being said, as there will be people that will try to use our voice, and it can become something triggering, and it can become something where like defamation, as said as Dr. Chew, and we don't want to put that thing upon us. And that's where we need to put a straight line, where we need to understand and need to be aware on how we can use this freedom of speech. And that's really in us, in being aware, in being educated, and then trying to educate the people around us on how freedom of speech actually is. And that's what I think regarding freedom of speech. I'll pass back to you, Ofa.
Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. I agree with you 100%. I just agree with you. So, Ms. Kartini, what do you feel about this, about freedom of speech and etc.?
All right, Malaysian youths using their voice, should all speeches be allowed? When someone's trying to advocate their thoughts, should you encourage students or youth to speak up? If yes, how do you do it and why is it important? Okay, when you advocate something, it's usually for a cause. You know, like climate change, child marriage, racial injustice, you know, so it always comes with a cost. So I am totally 100% on the board on the idea if you're advocating for a good cause. You know, it's especially really, really vital, really, really important for youngsters like us to have that level of kesedaran until you feel like, oh, look, I need to speak up about this. Because you know what, we're so lucky, us Malaysians, we're so lucky, we're so privileged to have the rights to speak up. You know, there's people out there in the world, there's children, there's people, you know, they just don't have the freedom to speak up, you know. So us as the younger generation, we should have the enlightenment to speak up, because there's people getting murdered, so we're talking for the people, for those who are murdered, who are dead. So we're advocating for their rights. We're talking about people who got raped. We are going to advocate for their point of view. There's children who are they're forced to marry and they don't have education. So we're speaking for these people who have absolutely zero rights to speak because they just can't. So we have to, like, because we are the future, you know, the youngsters, we are the future. So through speaking up is the way to be aware of these types of issues, because without you know, because you know, youngster use Twitter a lot, right? So I'm youngster, so I use Twitter so lah. So without this social media, without Twitter especially, I would not I would not know what's happening around the world. I would not know Lebanon had that explosion. I would not know that the harga pet dekat Zimbabwe tu dah RM100. I would not know Yemen had humanitarian crisis. I would not know about Black Lives Matter. I would not know people getting oppressed. So these all happen on the social media because people are speaking up. People, especially young people, are speaking up because we are the targeted audience that's close to technology. Like my mom doesn't have a phone, so she can't be speaking up through the internet. So youths especially is really important to speak up, and but we have to do it in a educated, in a calm manner, in a manner where you already research about the thing before you put it out there. Because you know, people just spread fake news everywhere. Like I have my father like spreading, you know, this WhatsApp text, you know, I'm just like, that I won't believe it unless it has a research paper on it. I just tell him like that, then he just keep quiet, you know. And then, you know, because old people, I'm not saying old people are disadvantaged for us, but old people are so gullible. They believe everything, you know, they see out there. Like they don't think deeply and critically like us. Like they don't have the energy anymore, honestly. So it's our part as youngsters to realize, oh, this news is wrong, so we have to help and educate our older people lah. So yeah, I feel that youth and students, we need to speak up because we are the future. And if we are the type of students who don't speak up, I feel like the country would have a bleak future, you know. So and we need to make sure that when we speak up, it doesn't hurt other people. So you have to keep in your mindset that you're not about to attack these other people, you're about to educate them. Okay, so don't, because in some cases, you know, people just kill themselves when you spread hate towards them. So we don't want that to happen. There's so many cases of people taking their lives away because the hate is just too much. So we need to be aware of sensitivity. You know, we need to be aware of a lot of things. Because
yes, Zurina, thank you. I think you're very passionate about this topic, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm very passionate because I used to be one of those people who was ignorant, you know, like
yes,
I used to
understandable.
be like, yeah, because I wasn't exposed. I was still a young kid. I just listened to whatever my parents said. I listened to whatever the television was saying. I didn't do my own research. So when I grew up, now I realized, wow, what a horrible person I was back then. I was such a terrible person back then. So like I'm happy that I developed, but I'm not perfect, so I'll continue developing myself, you know. So
thank you, Miss Zurina.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I mean, I don't think you're a terrible person because, you know, we're all developing ourselves, so it's fine. And thank you so much. Dr. Chew, we can see just now how Miss Zoe was like, yes, I use Twitter. What about you, Dr. Chew? Do you use Twitter?
Not really Twitter, but I use other platforms, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, right. Actually today I'm really glad, you know, to hear from Hadwan and Kartini. They are they actually show us that Malaysia is really fortunate, and the education system is good enough to produce students like Kartini and Hadwan who are very critical. Okay, you're critical and you dare to speak up. That's really good, actually. Yeah, really proud of you. Also for the organizers like Amirul who has been contacting me, I feel you have done a great job. Also, I would like to add on to what Ms. Kartini has said just now. Okay, it's true that it's really important to speak up. Okay, especially if you think it's something pertinent, something important, and something that could bring a change. Okay, sometimes good advice or good criticism, it depends on a person how he or she interprets it. Okay, however good you put it out, sometimes they might feel hurt as well. Yeah, it's really tricky, and that's made communication not easy. right? So before we say something, it's best that we do our research, like what Kartini has said just now. Do the research, understand the person whom you are going to send the message to. How would she out, or to make the person how we are not just limited to face-to-face communication. We also have communication using email or WhatsApp, or social media, Instagram, or Zoom, like this. So each of these platforms have their advantages and limitations. Messages that are put across could be interpreted differently, right? If I say I'm fine, if like I'm Hadwan's girlfriend, I say I'm fine through WhatsApp, how would Hadwan interpret it? Is it I'm fine as a real fine, or is it I'm fine? You couldn't hear the tone, right? So these different platforms, you need to know their affordances. What could they afford to give out to other people? What other information they could afford to give out? So these are some of the aspects that we need to bear in mind when we want to speak up for a better change. Yeah, I like that. There's somebody over the radio. I heard over the radio. They mentioned that if it's an organization, in an organization, everybody wants to be good. You don't want to say something bad that will hurt other people. Then how would there be improvement, right? The problems would still exist. So somebody needs to sacrifice or to speak up, all right, for that change. But before you be that hero, you need to bear in mind the use of language, because we are language students or people who have deepened our knowledge on knowledge. We need to know how to use this tool. Okay, how would we make ourselves more polite? How would we make people accept us better? All right, and in what kind of environment, so that the people could interpret it in a better way. Yeah, it's really not easy, but we'll take every attempt as an experiment to reflect and to make ourselves better. Yeah, I'm still learning as well. Yeah, we'll learn together.
Excellent. I believe that. I believe that, we are in an endless education cycle. And I like how you mentioned about people's feelings, because at the end of the day, we all live in a community. We all have to take care of each other's feelings. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Chew. And of course, Dr. Zoe, what do you think?
I think I agree to a certain extent that speeches should be allowed, in a way that, especially when it is something that they want to advocate, because, like I said earlier, I am an advocate when it comes to empowering students' voice, because I think it is now high time for the students to be empowered, for the students to be able to be given the platform to discuss, different things, or about about social issues, about issues like this, like academic issues, like language. We're talking about language in more than 1 hour, so it's a very interesting platform, I think. And I applaud the organizer, obviously, for many reasons, and one of them is to allow students to have their voice. I mean, obviously we are here as lecturers, peeking through the forum to make sure everything said is safe and everything. But what I'm saying is, you allow students to have their say, to discuss these different issues, and I think it's a great platform to talk about, to have this academic discourse. And the thing is, I think we need more people, we need more students like you, like Kartini, like Hadwan, like Amirul, like the Band 2 students, or all the Band students for that matter, to allow different students to talk about different issues, and to because I think when we discuss issues, we allow for education to happen. You know, we allow for awareness to happen. I think this is why it's very important for us to discuss, to understand. This is where understanding happen, I think. And it's also important to have this kind of platform to happen, because then we know, okay, this is why it's important to be educated, to understand your voice, the importance to understand the context, you know, where you are at, you know, whether the time that you, the situation that you are in allows you to do certain things or not, and to be justified, you know, whether the cost that you are going for is justified. And if it's justified only to you but not to other people, then you have to educate them. Why do you think this cost is important, you know? And this cost, the cost that you are advocating, from whose point of view? Yours? Only yours? What about the others? So this is where we talk about all these things. And I really hope that, you know, this platform is the platform that you can use your voice well. You can use your voice very wisely, appropriately, for the right reasons. And when I talk about wise, I mean, I'm talking about wisdom. Wisdom is not just about you saying things, you know, it's not just about you having freedom of speech and everything, but it's also you being smart, being guided, you know what you have to do, you know what you need to say for the right reasons, in the right manner, and I think at the right place, at the right time. So I think, yeah, it's a good platform. Go for it. I really advocate. I support this kind of events. And it's not just about UNISA students, you know. I mean, obviously I'm from UNISA and the organizer is from UNISA, but this collaboration, this is awesome. You know, we have people from UKM, from UM, from UITM, from public universities. I really hope that this can continue as a monthly event. If you guys have time, I don't know, you know, or a semesterly event, you know, something to, I think, to consider. And if, let's say, UKM or UITM, you guys want to do this kind of collaborations, you know, get more people in to have your say, you know, because now we are talking about being 18, being able to vote, you know, you have to be aware of the current issues, international, national issues. You know, this is where you talk about these kind of things. Yeah, I think go for it.
Thank you, Dr. Zoe. You mentioned a few times to be justified, you know, so, but what about those people that are more, can I say, thick-headed, you know, those that, you know, no matter how much you justify, no matter how much you say to them nicely or not, what are you giving up back? Sometimes they just don't want to listen to you. So what about those that are more thick-headed? What do you
But
think?
it's okay. You know, you've done your part. It's okay. You can't force your say. You can't force your view on other people. Different people have different perspectives because of their experiences, because of their background. So you can't force what you believe onto other people. But you can educate them. You can share with them. You can persuade them if you think it's important. You know, so it depends on the person. Like I said, you know, it's again, you as a person, whether you want to go for it or, you know, okay, you've done enough, let's leave it at that, you know, because sometimes you just can't force people to like you, right? And if I may ask, if I may say, you know, a little bit, you know, not just the younger people who use Twitter, you know, we the older people also use Twitter. We use Twitter too for, you know, and we use also social media. And I think there might be a generation gap. I mean, I'm obviously older, right, Shin Yi, unfortunately. but but I think even with the generation gap, I think it's wise to say that, you know, we help each other. You know, like Shin Yi said earlier, I am still learning. I learn a lot from our discussion today. I learn a lot understanding your perspectives on this matter, on this language matter, you know, and I think it's important to allow us to learn as much as we allow you guys to learn from us, I think. So even though there's a generation gap, but the elderly, you know, there's a generation gap between me and my parents, but you know, it's important to also educate them. And I agree with Kartini when she said, you know, sometimes the elderly, they just forward messages and everything. But you know, it's okay. That's their generation. But it doesn't mean that they're not helping us. We don't learn from them. We learn from them as much as we want them to learn from us. I think there needs to be a very dynamic relationship there. And sometimes they want to learn, they are willing to learn, and sometimes they don't. And it's okay. You know, it's okay. It's okay. Like I said, you know, like I said earlier, it's okay to agree to disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps I could add on a bit here. I also have parents like Kartini. Yeah, my parents also like to share, but we have to. But I actually look at their intention. Yeah, their intention is always kind. Always want us to know something. Yeah, they want something good for us. That's why they feel, oh, I have to share it with my daughter, with my children. Yeah, we have very caring and yeah, we have very caring parents, don't we, Kartini? Right? Yeah.
Dr. Chu, may I ask where you're from, if you don't mind sharing? Like, are you from around UM area, like Damansara or so?
No,
No.
I'm actually living near Cheras and Ampang. So it's quite a distance to travel to UM. Yeah.
On a daily basis. Okay, I think that's interesting. Case. Cool. I just wanted to see that where you're from, because you know.
Do I speak a different accent if I come from Damansara? Is that
No? No, that's not it. I mean, I'm from Damansara, so I just wanted to see that, you know, because there's been like a stereotype where, you know, the Damansara aunties and how the way they forward message and all this kind of stuff. So I wanted to see that how, you know, where Dr. Chu is from, where Kartini is from, because, you know, there's something inside my head. Yeah. So we mentioned about students' empowerment, students' voice. So how do you think it should be done, you know, especially in university, especially in a broader audience, like, you know, because, you know, we're 18, we're allowed to vote now, you know, so how do you think the public should perceive people, like the students' voice, because, you know, we're still considered as young, a different generation, as the panelists mentioned. So what do you think?
Actually, in Malaysia, yeah, if you look at our, you know, like UMNO Youth Association or NCA Youth Association, they could be 40 years old, right? And the leaders are always those in their 40s. And how about you guys who are the real youths? Right? Yeah, there needs to be a change for sure. Like, so I would actually like to hear from you, the answer from you, Alpha. If you have asked a question, you could have your answer, right?
Actually, that thought just came inside my head like 5 seconds ago. So I'm still, you know, trying to process it, because, you know, as a student, as a youth, sometimes we are perceived as, you know, not as as, you know, intelligent or as serious as the other generation. So yeah, I was just thinking about it. So there we go. We are.
Sorry. It might be normal that you're not confident of yourselves because you feel you lack experience, but we have lots of resources on the internet. There are people whom you could ask at any time. There are facts, there are research findings, there are statistics that you could use to support your points. Yeah, so confidence. Yeah. And,
thank you, Dr. Chu. So like Miss Kartini and Mr. Hadwan, so like, you know, as a student, as the younger generation, do you think the future is more hopeful for us?
I guess yes, it is more hopeful, as now we can see that our youth minister Syed Saddiq in Parliament, and also Parliament Digital and so on, where the youth voices are actually now being heard, and how people from from different age gaps are now trying to hear on what is being said rather than the age, where I guess people now can sum up that age is just a number and maturity is not from the age. And I myself, yes, encourage students and youth to speak up for the injustice and to not tolerate in any form of discrimination, as this encouragement is also not for us to abuse the news of free speech and to not incite what is politically correct and what is not. And we have to actually stand firm on what we know and what we acknowledge, and also have a vast mind to understand the different points of view of people, as Dr. Zoe said, that people have different point of view because of different things that happens in life and so on. And as a student representative also, I most would likely provide a platform for students to voice out their vote or to voice out their opinions and so on, regarding it publicly or anonymously. So to channel these voices and to make sure that these ideas get across, and that we don't know, maybe in our viewers, there's someone that will be a person that can cure cancer, a person that can maybe be the one who's done the research that can actually change the millions of lives in the future, where these small things that we can actually hope for are something that is actually started from our own ideas in our thoughts that we don't want to get it out. So I would like everyone to, not just for the youth, for the students, but also for the lecturers, and also for everyone that's listening this right now, to speak out your voice, but channel it in the proper channel. Get news, educate. As I guess all of panels agree that we have to make awareness, then we have to educate, and then the proper way of educating is throughout our inner circle. Then lastly, from that, maybe people from all around us can learn and how to use the speech properly. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. I think that's a very different yet delightful, and I see your point on why you view it that way. And Ms. Kartini, what's your input on this?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful towards our future generation. I see that there's a sense of awareness in everyone, and we're speaking up. We're not just taking it in and shutting up. We are saying something about it. If we see something wrong, we call them out for it. We educate them for it. We're not just taking anything anymore. We're not just going to keep quiet anymore. So it's really important, once again, to use your voice in a proper manner, using the right channel, right purpose, because spoken language is so powerful. It leaves an impact. There's always a saying that I remember, like, you won't remember the exact same words someone said to you, but you remember how you felt when that person said that thing to you. You always remember how you felt. So that's how important, that's how impactful words are. So you have the power, so please use this power of speech, freedom of speech that you have towards the right way, towards the right channel. So
thank you, Ms. Kartini. I really like the fact that you used the quote that you said, it doesn't really matter what you use, but how you felt about it, right? I think that's really important. Again, to be kind to other people. Yes, thank you. And of course, Dr. Zoe, what do you think?
I think I'm hopeful with the current group that I'm looking at today now. I'm hopeful that we will have a better nation. I think we will have a better, a more dynamic academic discourse, where we talk about different issues and everything. So yeah, well done, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Zoe. Thank you, Dr. Chew, and thank you, Dr. Kartini. Inshallah, one day, and also inshallah, one day, Dr. Hadwan. Thank you so very much. We have come to an end for our questions, and soon we'll have a question and answer section where people can unmute. Please unmute your mic and tell us your affiliation, where you're from, which university, and so on. And we'll head into question and answers in 2 minutes. we'll have a 2 minute break starting now. Thank you. Yay, 2 minutes are up, and we will be opening for a question and answer section. So, any questions? Oh, we have one question from Ilyana. Ilyana, could you please speak up to the panelists? You don't have to open your camera, just your voice is fine. Okay, maybe Ilyana is having some technical issues. Oh, it's really noisy here. No worries, no worries. I'll read out your questions for the panelists, all right? So, how do we identify between freedom of speech and hate speech? Because some people might give a hate speech and defend their opinions by saying, I have freedom of speech. So, how do you handle this type of speech? All right. So, who would like to go first? Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Ileana, for the question. So, how do you identify between freedom of speech and also hate speech? To me, hate speech is something when it becomes personal, when it becomes a personal attack, when it focuses where it focuses on a certain race or it focuses on a certain stereotype. So that doesn't, because everything at first it started as freedom of speech. Then when things get personal, things get turned into some things that's more direct, or where we can say that the channeling of what is being said is trying to attack a certain person or a certain race, then that becomes hate speech. So people, I guess we can have common sense where when these things happen, we should not be trying to we need to educate these people that we cannot say these kinds of things, where stereotyping is not good, where when we make a personal attack, it becomes something that is not for discussion to be done, and it becomes and hateful, it becomes fueled with emotions and so on. So that's how I see and perceive the difference of between freedom of speech and also hate speech. I'll pass to the other panels. Okay, Dr. Chew.
I'll add on. So we have to be clear that the limits on free speech should be rooted on the principle that we are not allowed to harm others to get what we want. Yeah, the keyword should be not to harm others. Yeah, that's the principle of freedom of speech. So that's why, like I've mentioned before, fraud, like defamation and a real threats, all these shouldn't go in freedom of speech. Yeah. If not, then it will become hate speech that could make people really angry, creating lots of groups protesting on the streets. All these are things that we want to avoid seeing. Yeah. All right. Zul?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. I think again, you know, we look at the context that we are in. You know, with the people, the person who are giving the hate speech. I think it depends on the context. You know, because like I said earlier, depending on the perspective of the person, then you know that's why they might be giving that kind of speech. However, I think understanding where they come from, I think it's easier for us to educate them. Okay, maybe what you're saying is hateful, so it's not good for the community, it's going to bring harm to the others. So I think, you know, understanding, so I think from there, educating this kind of people would bring more harmony to the society, because then, you know, they might change their interaction with you, their discussion with you might change their perspectives on a lot of things. Yeah, I think that's how it is, how to handle this kind of speech, I think.
Zul, you are a true educator. I keep hearing educating.
And Miss Kartini, do you have any input for Miss Ileana's question?
Yeah, how, she asked, right, how do we handle this type of speech? Okay, for me, if educating doesn't work, I walk away. I just walk away. Yeah, I walk away. There's no point talking to this kind of people, you know, like they just can't accept their ideology is wrong. So why hurt yourself? Why hurt yourself furthermore by engaging in this kind of hate speech? Just remove yourself from it. You know, if someone talks shit about you on social media, block them. They don't deserve to know what happens in your life. What like if we are actually doing them a favor, you know, if they feel so envious towards us, if we block them, they're not going to see what's happening in our life, so they're not going to sakit hati. We are not going to sakit hati, so just remove yourself from that situation if educating doesn't work. But we first have to educate, because that's the whole point of you know, we have to tell them out that they're wrong, because maybe the next time when they want to do hate speech, they'll think, oh, someone's going to attack me again and say whatever I'm saying is wrong. So they think twice before they do that hate speech again. So yeah, that's from me.
Thank you, Miss Kartini. Sorry, Dr. Chew, you were saying something?
Yeah, I agree with Kartini. It's not worthy of our energy. Yeah. To be angry of somebody who is not worth our time and effort. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. Do we have any other questions?
I think Iman has a question.
Hi.
Let's go.
It's more to like, I want to ask opinion from Dr. Zoe and Dr. Chew. I want to hear opinion from different perspective, yes. So as an educator, what do both of you think about students who use the term of freedom of speech to voice out their problems about their lecturers affairs, their campus, their university systems on social media? That's it.
You want to go, Shin Yi?
You go first then.
I go first. I think again, we talk about having freedom of speech in our constitutions, right? In the Malaysian constitutions. And I think there's another clause that is attached to that clause that says, we don't bring harm to other people. And if you think that, talking bad about your lecturers will bring harm to them, to the lecturers, I think then don't do it. That's not justified. That's my opinion. Because I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because then because like Hadwan said, like Kartini said, there are always the more appropriate platform to say things like, if you're not satisfied with the system, if you're not satisfied with any of the courses that you take, there's always another better platform that you can go for, like, your student bodies, go through your student representatives. That's what they are there to, to help you, to be the mediator between you and the university or the faculty. And I think if, let's say, you know too much about your lecturer's personal stuff, or your friends who know too much and then they talk bad about it on social media. I think if the social media, if your accounts are, however, if it is public, my advice is try to, I don't know if you can approach the person, to take it down or anything. We have reports before this about students doing that, and we ask them to take it down. But as a person who don't know the person probably, or as a stranger who just probably bump into this kind of posts on social media, I think it's best to just leave it, because then it doesn't bother you, it doesn't why would you want to give too much thought to you, on you, when it doesn't concern you. But if you can do something about it, go ahead. If not, then it's okay. You also have to think about you. You don't have to think about yourself. You don't have to think about other people. Think about you, whether you are ready to go and confront, because not everybody likes confrontation, I think. Yeah.
I think the use of surveys are actually very good. Like, I know students, you do have concerns like, hey, maybe that lecturer is not up to my expectations, or the course could be improved in these ways. So I think in universities, we actually have surveys for students to voice out opinions. Use that to channel your thoughts, recommend suggestions, or if you think it's good, compliment. If you think there are suggestions for improvement, do share, and so that the course could be improved, the lecturer could also improve himself or herself, yeah, and that could benefit your juniors and other students. Yeah, I think that's actually the best way.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dr. Dr. Chew, because in UNISA we also have the input and output thingy, and I think it's also important to highlight. As students, we should give our lecturers constructive criticism instead of just giving them bad feedback. So just let out our own opinions and thoughts. So yeah, constructive criticism, that's the key. So we have a question from Miss Sarah Shafika. If you could try and speak out first, that would be great. I think she's speaking, but sorry, Miss Sarah, we can't hear you. There must be some technical issues. We can, but please speak louder. Oh, we can't hear you, Miss Sarah. We're so sorry. Yep, there must be some technical issues. It's okay, Miss Sarah. We can give you a few moments if you want to type down your questions. No worries. Or if someone else would like to go first, while Miss Sarah type her questions, that would be nice as well.
Hello? Can anybody hear me? Okay. So I have like a question. So what are the panelists' advice for the quiet student, the quiet type student, if like they want to change and become more active and open with the classmate and within the classroom? So what are the steps that they need to change themselves for the better?
I'm also a quiet. I was also a quiet student, and if I have the chance, I would also like to be quiet. Um, just my personality, you know, Zu. As I've shared with you, that motivates my research, and I feel that you know, when you are prepared and when you are confident of the environment, then you would be more confident to share or to speak up. All right. I also have a student who has mentioned, you know, suggested some improvements on my part. You know, after a course, I did ask my students for their feedback on they think about the course. So one of the feedback is they wish that learning materials could be uploaded one day, at least one day before, okay, so that they could go through, they could prepare themselves. They feel more secured when they are prepared with the questions they want to ask. They know this is a good, I mean, a good question perhaps, and they could ask the lecturer. So yeah, maybe give yourself more time to prepare. Yeah, that could be one way. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ima, for that question. And thank you, Dr. Chew, for your answer. So, Ms. Sarah, are you ready? Because, you know, we understand technical problems. No worries. Or if Dr. Zoe or Mr. Hadwan or Ms. Kartini would like to say something about how, you know, about Ms. Ima's questions, that would be nice as well.
If I may add to what Dr. Chew mentioned earlier, I think, like she said, we were the quiet students, right? The shy ones, and sometimes it's just our personality, to be honest. And
Same.
but if, let's say, you are ready and you want to change, you know, my advice is take a deep breath and go for it. You know, because
Yeah.
honestly, if you think too much about it, you won't say anything. Because, you know, that's what I experienced, I think, in the sense that, you know, when I wanted, I mean, throughout my 5.5 years of degree plus foundation, and also my 2 years of masters, my 5.5 years, another 5.5 years of PhD, I think I can safely say that when I'm in classes and I want to say something, I just take a deep breath, put up my hand, you know, and when I put up my hand, then that's too late for me to put it back down, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it is, I have to say something. And I think it's also the way that we say things, you know, because you don't say, I don't normally say, okay, you know, this is my opinion, you know, or, you know, I don't normally say, I want to ask something, but I will start with, you know, I think this is just my opinion, you know, always put a disclaimer on with that, you know. And then, you know, if let's say you want to ask something, then you can say, you know, if you don't mind, you know, can I just clarify on this matter? The way you say it, that also builds confidence, because then you can, you know that you are saying it right, you know that you are saying, you are asking the right questions, and obviously, like I said, conducive environment, you know, the safe space. No, you know, you need to know that the classroom that you are in is a safe space. And also remember, I always tell this to my students, there is no such thing as a silly question. No, you can ask any questions, you know, regardless if you have asked the question 10,000 times, you can still ask the question. Although I don't condone that, you know, if let's say your lecturers have explained to you 100,000 times, then, you know, it's for me, you can you can feel bad if you ask the same question. But if you don't, if let's say this is the first time you're asking the question, then go ahead. But I mean, in my class, if you ask my students, I think even if they have asked the question, I would try to still entertain the question. Yeah.
Yes,
Can
we
I
agree.
can I add on?
Yes, of course, Mr. Hadwan. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So for Nur Fahima, I actually started as a quiet person myself because I wasn't someone who's very output, who's very vocal about my voice and so on. But as years progressed, I actually got this encouragement, or got this feeling of wanted to say my thoughts out loud, is because of the encouragement of those around. So like Dr. Zoe said, and also Dr. Chew said, that is the environment of the classroom where you can feel safe on what you want to say, and also the encouragement of people around you of trying to lift up the way that you're going to say the questions. And because when we are quiet, we don't tend to say the things that we want to say out loud, because we feel like, alamak, betul ke apa yang saya cakap ni, betul ke apa yang nak cakap ni. So macam we tend to have those kinds of thoughts. And also, but when we feel like, I think when for example when a teacher asks an opinion from the classroom, and then maybe the loud people will always reply and always give out their opinions and so on, but you feel like, I have something that I want to say too. So then, like I guess Dr. Zoe's way is the proper way lah, to just raise your hand. Then just say it out loud, because sometimes we don't know how our words can actually help those around you also. And maybe your thoughts that you feel like you still, other people pun ada that kind of question juga. No, faham tak? So that's what I see.
Yeah, because I can relate with the quiet type of students, because in my past diploma years, I am the quiet students. I will sit at the back and I will just like be quiet. I don't care. And so it really triggers me when our remarkable panelists to share that with us. So thank you for all of the opinion. I really appreciate it.
Sorry, could I add a bit more? Yeah, sorry, could I
Please,
just add
please
a bit
go ahead,
more?
Dr. Chew, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know the environment, a safe environment is good, but if the environment is hostile and you still need to speak up, protect yourself by a disclaimer, like what Dr. Zhu has said. Another disclaimer that I've always heard, which is a phrase, I think it's a very nice phrase that's always mentioned by my colleagues. I'm just thinking aloud here, but what if, all right? So you're giving yourself a safer environment by putting a disclaimer and saying that, hey, I'm just thinking aloud here, all right? So don't feel that I'm silly, or, those can be pushed aside. Yeah, right? Hope that helps.
Thank you, Dr. Chu. I think that really helps. I really like the introduction to what you're thinking. So Miss Sarah actually typed out the question, but she wrote it to me personally. She is saying how, I would love to get advice from the panel about when higher authorities like lecturers who actually let students to speak out, but they don't necessarily listen to us. What can we do about it? This setting is not really about in a controversial topic, but just in a normal classroom setting. So because at the end of the day, we just ended up giving up because they're not listening to us. Thank you.
So do we have to defend ourselves now? I think, okay, joke aside, I think what you can think about this kind of situation is that the fact that they want to listen, or the fact that they are giving you the opportunity, is what is the first step probably for them. you know. So the other step would be to listen to you. And the thing is, it's okay if they don't listen, or it's okay if they don't take action based on what you have told them. You know, what matters is your voice is heard. What matters is you have the platform to give your say. And it could be a practice platform for you, you know, where probably at this stage they don't listen to me. Then, you know, if you go for the future, then, you know, they might listen to you more later in the future. I think probably what you can think of this kind of situations as a practice stage for you to say your opinion, you know, to build your confidence. I think, yeah, I mean, not everybody, like, you know, I saw some more comments here that, you know, some environment, like Dr. Chew said, could be hostile, and but it's okay, you know. It's you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to accommodate to the situation that you are in. If you think it's not safe for you to say your opinion, then don't. You know, it's important to understand where you are, you know, the context that you are in, whether it is safe for you. If you think that if you say something in that context, it's gonna backlash to you, it's gonna hurt you, it's gonna be harmful to you, then it's always good to, you know, move away. You know, I think the right thing to do is to be intelligent about it, to be educated about it again, you know, and to be justified. Yeah.
All right, my turn, right? Okay, it's sad that you know, you have done, I mean, you have the courage and you have spoken out, but yet the person is not listening. You might have felt down, but I think you have played your part. And again, if you think what you want to say is really important, perhaps try a few more times, in different ways, in different platforms, or you have you make your opinion more powerful by getting support from more people, perhaps, you know, perhaps getting more support from other people about what you want to say, about your opinions, or say it differently in different ways. You know, sometimes effective communication would also depend, you know, on the right timing, on the right place, you know, yeah. So there are many variables that could affect your lecturer, whether why is she listening or not listening? Yeah. So
thank you,
not
Dr. Chu.
experimenting. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chu, and thank you, Sarah, for the question. So we have one last question from Dinor Dini. If you could unmute your mic and speak up, that's great.
Hi everyone, my name is Dini. I'm from UiTM Shah Alam. I would like to know and ask if the panelists, if there's any history or experience that you have encountered within the hate community. Perhaps you can add your favorite story or highlight.
Thank you, Dini, for your question. So can we please start with Miss Kartini?
You mean like my hate experience, huh? Oh my god, it's like quite personal, you know. Okay, okay, my
I mean, you don't have to share if you feel uncomfortable, no worries.
Oh, okay, sure. Before I got into UKM for my degree, I did diploma in English in UPSI, University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, for 2 years. I was there for 2 years. When I was in UPSI, I was very young. I was fresh out of high school. I had this like superiority complex where I felt like I was better than everyone. Like what I said, I was a terrible person back then. So what I do is like I tweet things out on my Twitter, and because I felt like it was a safe space for me to speak up. So I just tweet out things like, you know, assignments, like very general stuff. And then some people didn't like what I was typing out. some people didn't like my opinion, and they took it to the next level, you know, like I wouldn't call it bullying, but it was borderline bullying, like in classes when it's my group's turn to present, they won't clap, they won't give any response, and I know they spread rumors about me towards the whole batch, because at one point these people that I've never met before, like they didn't want to talk to me, so I was really isolated during my diploma years. So when I entered to degree, I thought that it's over because I unfollowed all these people. Like I said, if you're in that position where you're in a hate, you're getting hate, just remove yourself from it. So that's what I did. I removed myself from it, and like these people on Instagram, I unfollowed them and they unfollowed me. Same as Twitter, I opened up a new Twitter. None of them, but even when these people, when they left UPSI and they're going to different universities, they're still talking about me, like still talking about me. So I'm just like, last time when I was younger, I would feel so affected by it. I would feel like, what's wrong with me? Why they don't like me? Why are they spreading hate towards me? Am I such a terrible person? It really did something to my self-confidence, you know. It really changed me as a person. I had really bad thoughts about myself, you know, like I don't want to be
And
put
it
that
really
place
affects
again.
your mentality
Yeah,
as well, doesn't it?
That's the first time where I felt firsthand like how words can really affect you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought when degree they would change, but this just happened a few days ago. One of my friends in the same, one of my close friends, there's four of us, she okay, there was something I said about because last time I didn't wear the hijab. So I said that, oh, the reason I didn't want to wear the hijab is because I want to take it seriously. I don't want to like put it on and then don't wear it because I feel like that's disrespecting the hijab, because they don't know my situation. My dad is Indian, so when I go to his Indian function, I can't be wearing tudung. The context is wrong because my mother don't wear tudung. So if I wear tudung in an Indian event, that would be disrespecting my mother in some cases because she's not wearing tudung. So okay, maybe someone saw me at the function and they're like, oh, she didn't wear tudung, things like that. So I'm just like thinking like, does my life bother you in some ways? Like, why are you so affected by it? So like, it was my close friend. She tweeted it out loud. She tweeted it in public. She said, oh, look at this girl. She's such a hypocrite. She said that she won't take off her tudung, but look what she's doing now. So I'm like, okay, if you're really my friend, because she's one of my close friends when I was in UPSI, why don't you approach me personally and ask me about it? Why do you have to tweet it out loud and embarrass me like that? Like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
true.
not embarrassed, but yeah,
I
I'm not
think
embarrassed.
like, you know, hate is really all around us, and sometimes we can't help but we see them, you know. So I think that's a very terrible thing for you to have to go through. But you know, as we grow older, we understand better and etc. So Dr. Zoe, Dr. Chew, or Mr. Hadwan, would you like to share something for quickly? Because
Okay, so thank you, Dini, for the question. So personal experience about hate. I've been getting hate when I was in high school. I didn't like my high school so much. I hated it because I was bullied first. Then I was treated by my body because I had a big. I'm quite big, so there's the insecurities adalah, and then how I handled it is by me removing, like how Kartini said, it's by removing us from those kinds of people. So I tend to be alone in my high school. I don't have most close friends. Till now, I don't have any friends from high school. My closest friends now are from foundation actually. So that I don't feel that emotional cling to like to use that hate to make ourselves more terrible than what we should be. We should grow better and be ourselves more better than the person we used to be. So I actually came across this video from TikTok where it said like this lah, sometimes the people that the haters that hate us doesn't hit home that much, but the people that are closest to us are the ones that really really affected us somehow in our lives.
Yeah,
And
I agree, Mr. Hadwan. Yeah, I really do agree, because no matter how many people are hating on you, sometimes you just need to keep your close circle in your mind. Yeah, definitely. And I think that marks the end of our question and answer. Would any of the panelists would like to say anything before we end this session?
Well, I would like to share a saying that I heard from a famous person who received a lot of hate speech, who's always criticized. I like the way he consoled himself. Losers focus on winners, but winners will focus on winning. So we do not need to take the bad criticisms. If it's constructive criticisms, that's good. But if you feel that it's pointless, it's like just to make you feel bad, that kind of criticisms, perhaps you could treat them as losers. They focus on you, perhaps you are a winner, all right? So, but you as a winner, you will focus on becoming better and on winning. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so we all have bad experiences, but it's how we reflect and how we learn from it and to make ourselves better.
Thank you, Dr. Chew. Dr. Zoe, would you like to say anything else before we end?
I agree with what Dr. Chew said earlier. And I think always be positive, no matter what people say. I have this belief that I think you can't really think too much about what other people think about you, as long as what you're doing is justified well, and go for it. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizer and also the other panelists for a very dynamic discussion. I think I applaud the organizer for organizing this, and I look forward for future forums. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you to
Zoe.
the organizers. Thank you for the pretty and cute moderator today.
Thank you, Dr. Chew. Thank you, Ms. Kartini. Thank you, Mr. Hadwan. So if you don't mind, we would like to have a quick 10-second photo session by our director will take the photo for us. So please do not move too much, or the picture will be quite blurry. So yes, 10 seconds from now. Take it away, Mr. Director.
Are you guys ready? Please turn on your camera if you could. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Another one.
Freestyle.
Okay, that's all. Okay, Alpha, do you have anything?
No, go ahead, Amiro, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Miss Alpha, for your part as a moderator. So great. Thank you to the panelists. That was a very thoughtful forum and a very good sharing session. Thank you, Ms. Kartini. Thank you, Dr. Zoe, Dr. Chew Shin Yi, and Mr. Hadwan. And thank you to all my friends, my crew, for helping me to do this. And the audience, thank you so much for participating. And I think if there's nothing else, you guys may leave the Zoom. Oh, yes?
Hold on, sorry.
Okay.
So sorry. So, there we go. Thank you so much, Mr. Amir, for that closing. Again, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Zoe, Dr. Chew, Ms. Kartini, Mr. Hadwan for that delightful and informative sessions. Indeed, communication and language plays a large role in determining someone's way of thinking, behaviors, and their next steps. So I think it's safe to say that from today, we have more than enough reasons to always be kind and choose our words wisely when we speak to other people. To think before we speak, because as the panelists said, decisions maturity is something personal, whether we want to adapt it or not. And our little acts have its own domino effect. So as individuals, we play an important role in the society. So again, to pull the curtain on today's forum, as the Vice Director of the program and also as the moderator of the program, I would like to extend my gratitude to everyone that took part in this forum. And I would also like to apologize on behalf of everyone if we said anything offensive that may hurt your feelings, or if our forum for today is a bit unsatisfactory. So thank you, and until next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Hope to have future collaborations. Bye.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah,
Mr.
sure,
Hadwan.
sure, Mr. Hadwan.
Thank
Sure.
you all.
Thank you, Nurul. And thank you, Yana. Thank you, everyone, basically. Thank you. You
You guys
may
are great.
leave
You guys are
the
great
Zoom
people.
call if you want to. Thank you so very much.